Hi, one SBR videos. I'm Peter Loshak. Today is Tuesday, December 8th. And of course, bowl season is just underway in college football. Very exciting time for all of us. We are talking with guest professional handicapper Teddy Covers, who is going to give us some tips on how to bet bowl games. I'm Peter Loshak. You're watching SBR videos. Teddy Covers. The title of this video is How to Bet Bowl Games. This is going to have to be all you because I don't have a fucking clue, man. You're going to have to do all the heavy lifting in this one. Now, I have a little bit of a clue, but you've been doing this for a long time successfully. Teddy Covers, you're just going to give us a few bullet points on, just a very basic intro primer on things to look for in how to bet bowl games. What's the first thing you'd like to discuss with us, Teddy?
Well, it's funny that you talk about that, Peter, because I'll be perfectly honest. I went back and looked at something that I wrote, it's got to be 10 years ago now. I'm like, I can't use this at all. There's nothing from this list that I think is still pertinent and
because
relevant.
The market has changed, you mean?
The market's changed completely now.
Right.
There used to be a lot of the old trends and angles. Look for underdogs in the early bowl games.
Right.
The favorites aren't excited. A lot of that stuff really hasn't worked in recent years. So what I tried to do for my piece this week, today, was really concentrate on stuff that, yes, this is something that I've been using currently, used last year, and has some semblance of a chance to give you an opportunity during bowl season. Because I'll tell you what, the best opportunities during bowl season are probably in-game wagering. When you see how teams come out and how they approach those first few series, man, and as well as the swings in momentum in bowl season, that can be huge. In-game wagering is a big piece of the equation. That's not something I talked about at all in the article.
Right. Okay. So then, in your opinion, is it that the bowl lines have gotten tighter, the market has gotten a lot more efficient, or is it just that the old angles don't really apply anymore, and now there's new ways to find value, or is it just that the value has dried up?
A little bit from column A, a little bit from column B, because the truth of it is that when something works consistently,
right,
particularly like a bowl strategy that works consistently, then the markets are going to react and going to catch up to where the bettors have been in recent seasons. We talked a little bit about that in yesterday's video, talking about the strength of schedule angle and how bettors are going to knee-jerk to some of these strength of schedule differentials as a first reaction to the betting lines. But one thing that was true 10 years ago that is still true today has to do with the simple factor of motivation. It doesn't matter how good a team was during the regular season. What matters is, are they excited to play this particular game? And sometimes when you have a good team that had a disappointing season and they're going to Detroit or they're going to Shreveport or they're going to one of these second-tier locations, that level of motivation isn't there when you find them up against a feisty underdog that is searching for respect in any way, whether they're a smaller conference team, whether they came on strong down the stretch and now are like trying to put a cap on their season. But when you can find a team that's excited about their bid as against a team that is not so excited, that is automatically a game that I'm going to circle and take a good hard look at.
Right. So it sounds like a lot of the factors that are still relevant are factors that aren't easy necessarily to quantify, that they're less quantifiable, and it's more a matter of a judgment call, but that just because they're not quantifiable doesn't mean they're not still real and not still in play.
That's a great point, Peter. And let me talk about that for just a minute, because again, people like easy strategies.
Right.
They like something that they go, oh, well, I'm just going to run this algorithm and boom, it's going to spit out the winners. Or, oh, look at this trend or this angle. It's cashed 80% over the last 5 years. Therefore, it's a lock that it's going to continue cashing at that level. Whether it's a bettors, whether it's reporters, everyone likes the easy solution. And I'll tell you, the only way that I found to beat bowls is you sit and you do the dirty work.
Yes.
You dig and you dig and you dig more. And the number one thing I'm digging for, I'm looking for teams that are going to be different in their bowl game for whatever reason than they were in the regular season. Whether it's a coaching change, whether it's personnel getting healthy, whether it's personnel getting hurt, whether it's a scheme change, anything that you can find that says, hey, this team in late December is going to be different than they were in late November, for the better or for the worse. Those are really the type of games that you try to isolate and focus on, because that's where the markets often are going to struggle to react.
Right. But aren't the bowl lines set basically the same way as a regular season game would be set? It's just a matter of power rankings, right?
Absolutely. The bowl power, you're taking team A's power rating number, you're taking teams B power rating number, you're factoring any circumstance. There are some home field edges in a number of these bowls. So any home field edge or anything like that's got to be factored in. But it's basically a power rating differential and a guesstimate from the very first bookmakers to post numbers as to where they think the markets are going to go, what type of teams they think are going to be attracting betting support. So, yeah, it's just powering numbers, and they're powering numbers. Again, they're stale in a sense because they're powering numbers that are based on what a team looked like at the end of November. And what a team looked like at the end of November is not necessarily what they're going to look like in their bowl game. And that's where bettors have a legitimate edge.
All right, yeah, so, and what's your take on line movement in the bowls? Because, these bowl games, the lines are hanging there, market-wide with full limits for much longer than the regular season lines are. So do you find that the line movements are more significant, less significant, something you want to follow, something you want to ignore more or less than in the regular season? What's your, do you have any opinions in general on bowl line movements as opposed to regular season line movements?
Well, what happens in the bowl games, it's not that dissimilar from a college football week, except for that it lasts 3 weeks or 4 weeks before the games are played. So what happens is that it gets stretched out. You see a lot of early movement. We've already seen a fair bit of early movement on a number of games. And then the lines basically just sit there.
Right.
And they'll sit there, and they'll sit there. And then in the last day or two, especially the last 24 hours before kickoff, they'll start jumping around all over the place again. But, basically, as we record this on Tuesday, the lines have been up since yesterday. By about tomorrow, these lines are going to just sit there. They're going to be flat by and large for extended stretches until suspensions and injuries start getting announced, and then they bounce around a little bit. But there's not that sense of urgency where, hey, I got to get this wager down right now in college football because you know what? This line's going to move. I know it's going to move tomorrow morning. In bowl season, it tends to stretch out a little bit longer. Right. You don't see the bigger moves, again, following those opening moves until the last 24 to 48 hours before kickoff.
Well, bowl season is very exciting, and, like you said, doing your research and putting the work in, that's one way to find edges that, they'll never be able to take away. Teddy Covers, is there anything else that you'd like to clue us into before we let you go?
You know me, I've always got stuff. I could go on all day here, but one last thing, you got to handicap the conferences. In early bowl season action, you really want to pay attention to what conferences are having difficulty stepping up and what conferences are not. It doesn't necessarily mean that for the elite teams of those let's say you have a conference that's really struggling. The elite teams may not, but I'll tell you what, if you find a lot of mediocrity and you see a conference that's laying points consistently throughout the course of the bowl season and they're failing early, those are definitely conferences I'll be looking for mediocre teams out of to fade as the bowl season progresses.
All right, awesome thoughts, Teddy Covers. Thanks so much.